Well, hi, Laura. Thank you for being with me today.
Yeah, no problem.
I have some questions for you regarding kind of the job searching process, acquiring your position that you have. So if you're okay with that, we'll get started.
Yeah.
Okay. My first question is, when and how did you start the job searching process?
Well, I started looking for a job pretty much like the beginning of my senior year. I'm kind of like, I really like in my head, I was like, I need to get a job like now. And, you know, I had like basically like a whole year to find a job, but I was determined that, you know, I needed to start early in order to find one. I mean, it did pay off in the end, but I think that part of that was because I was in an internship all summer, and so I was already thinking, like, okay, how can I use my professional skills? Like, I need to start looking for jobs, and so I was always kind of looking from the start of my senior year, but then I really started, like, applying probably halfway through the first, like, that semester, the fall semester of my senior year, and, yeah, so, I mean, I guess it really started, like, while I was in my internship over the summer, and then it just kind of went into this, like, the first semester, and then I actually got my job at the start of the second semester, so.
Sure. How did you know kind of what to do to get started? Did you feel lost at all?
I kind of did, but I think that I utilized, like, career services a lot. I utilized, I had a mentor through my internship that I had, and she, like, really helped me, and she was like, okay, these are the kinds of things, like, she really emphasized, like, I'm the only one who's going to know, like, if a job fits or not. And so I really took her advice on, like, okay, like, looking for the kind of job culture that you want, like, the kind of duties you want to be doing, what is your manager, what kind of leadership style does your boss have, or whatever. And those are kinds of things that, as I was researching companies and places to work, that I really paid attention to. And I think that if I wouldn't have had that advice, I wouldn't have really known where to start. And, like, really, like, I guess, like, even just the process, I was kind of confused. What I did was just go on to Google and, like, type in, like, okay, communications jobs, or, like, jobs, marketing jobs, or whatever it was, like, jobs in insurance, and I typed that in, and I found, like, I really liked the website Indeed, and so I used that a lot, but even LinkedIn, like, I really utilized LinkedIn. I've downloaded the app with all, like, the job, like, stuff on it,
LinkedIn
and
jobs.
stuff, so, I think that, like, I was confused at first, but, like, after doing it after a while, like, you just kind of get in such a routine. And even the job application process is so, like, monotonous. Like, it does get frustrating because you're like, okay, I'll enter my address one more time. It's like how many times you type an address, it actually takes longer than you think. So, I mean, yeah, I guess, like, it was a learning curve, and it was frustrating, but I finally, you know, learned how to do it, and, you know, ultimately it paid off. So
That's awesome. Can you elaborate a little bit on your mentor, like, who that was, what role that person was in, kind of like those interactions?
Yes, like, I love her. She's, like, near and dear to my heart. Her name is Tanya, and she works at a company called Evine Live. When I worked there, it was called Shop HQ. They just went through a big change of the company name.
Okay.
It's a home shopping network based out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and she was, like, the best person because she hired me, and, like, I interviewed with her, and I had like, really minimal interviewing experience at that time. Like, I was only a junior in college, and she really, like, chose me and saw something in me. And when I worked with her, she gave me, like, complete freedom, which was almost a little bit too much freedom for myself, because I was like, I want direction, but she really challenged me to be like, Laura, I'm giving this to you, like, what do you want to do with it? Like, here's the call center, here's the customer service center, like, what do you need to do? And I was like, gosh, so I came up with, like, these 3 goals, and I presented them to her by the end of my first day, and she was so impressed. She showed it to the vice president, like, and the vice president was like, oh my gosh, we like this girl. And so my whole time there, I just was, like, all about working hard, impressing her. You know, I'd come into her office, like, every week, like, at the end of every week, and we'd talk about how my week went, and we called them one-on-ones, and it would just be, like, a time for us to meet up, and she did that with a lot of the employees that she looked over. So, like, she was just a great leader, and she cared more about employee development than she did about, like, the actual outcome. So she's like, you know, if all of our employees are happy, then we'll get what we need to do done. But before we can do that, we need to make sure that everyone's in the right place. And so she'd say to, like, not me, because she knew that I was, you know, not a permanent member of the organization, but she talked to her other employees, like, you know, this isn't going to be your last job. Like, you're going to move on from here. What can I do for you that's going to help you put the next thing on your resume? And I was like, okay, that's the kind of person she is. And even now, I mean, after I left, I was, like, crying because I was like, I'll never find a better boss than her. And now, like, we meet for coffee all the time. And actually, she just came and spoke as a guest in my gender class. She has some unique life experiences with the topic of gender, and so she came in there, and it was like, she didn't have to do that for me, but she did, and it was like she drove all the way from Eden Prairie to River Falls, and it was just such, like, it's just like one of those relationships where you know that you've made a good mentor, and that this is someone that you can, like, use for, and, like, be in a relationship for life, except for now, I just got the news this week that she accepted a job at Amazon, and she's moving to Seattle.
Wow.
So I won't know her, I'm seeing her on Friday, but it could be one of the last times I ever see her. And so that's really heartbreaking to me, because not only was, like, she a good, like, professional mentor for me, but she was also, like, a really good friend. And even, like, in front of the class that she spoke at with me, in my gender class, she was like, Laura's gonna do great things. She's gonna go so far. And she said that in front of my professor and in front of all my class. And I was like, I just love her. And, it's just really hard, but I guess that's life. But from this moment, she has given me opportunities. Like, she gave me a second internship over winter break. Like, every professional opportunity that I've had so far is because of her. So, like, I can never repay her enough. But I just think that that's one of the main reasons, like, to get a mentor is because they really do help you out. And if you make a good connection with them, then they are willing to, like, sacrifice things for you, including their time.
Absolutely. So, heartwarming, to say the least. Heartwarming.
Yeah.
I can appreciate very much someone that's really focused on relationship development and developing you. And I'm so happy that you could still stay in contact with her.
Yeah.
Although the news about Seattle is a little...
Yeah, it's kind of sad. But
right.
I'm sure we'll, stay in contact.
Absolutely. As technology develops, there's ways to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there's a reason for you to go visit her out there.
Exactly. You never know.
Right. Good. My next question is, what types of positions were you applying to when you were job searching, and how did you decide that a position might be a good fit for you?
Yeah, so after my internship, I was like, all right, well, I have some experience in customer service, and basically, like, not on the phone, like, answering phone calls, but in training the customer service, people, the customer service representatives who were, like, the agents who would be on the phone, taking phone call after phone call. So I had some experience training them into their job. I had some experience running campaigns for them, like, doing kind of, like, the motivational, also, like, so kind of, like, the development part of training. So, like, I noticed that, like, a lot of them aren't using positive phrases when they're speaking to the customer. What can we do as a development training to try to teach them how to insert positive phrases when they speak to customers, kinds of things. And then I also did some, like, inner communications, like, organizational communications, like sending out emails to them, updating them on current information. So I kind of was like, okay, so I have a couple options I could go. I could do training, I could do marketing, because I also did, separate from the call center, I did a internship project with the other interns. It was a completely 100% marketing-based project where we learned how to market a 24-hour broadcasting of, like, product on our show. And so that was really cool and really hard, challenging, but I was like, okay, now I know a little bit of marketing. So I had a couple different options, and I was like, I really would like to be in communication and training because I like working with people. However, I didn't know if I'd want to stand up in front of a class and teach someone how to answer the phone, because that was like, I don't know if I like that, but I liked working with people, and more of, like, the development training is what I really enjoyed. But that's not exactly what I ended up doing, and it's like I pretty much accepted a job that's, like, 100% different than, like, anything that I thought I would be doing.
Sure.
I accepted a job in underwriting and insurance, and it's really client-based, so a lot of, like, relationship building and maintaining, and, like, that's how, like, you get a client, and then it's up to you to kind of maintain that relationship. And, if you don't maintain that relationship, you can lose that client. And so, there is some, like, technical things that parts of that job that will be part of my job duties, but the part that sold me the most was that I'll be working with people and, like, building trust, because I do, and it's kind of competitive too, like, okay, well, I got this client, like, this is going to be good for our, like, business or whatever. And I kind of liked that. And, my mom's been in insurance. They've been a really good company to my mom. My mom had triplets, and they were willing to give her time off, like, to raise her kids, and they let her work part-time after we were raised. And so, my mom really likes the industry, and I just, I'm willing to take my chances, and I'm totally willing, if I don't like it, to make a career change.
For sure.
So,
for sure. Can you describe your job a little bit more about what you're doing before we move on?
Yeah. So, it's called, I'll be an underwriting trainee is what they're calling me now. And it's basically, I'll be going into the field office. So Zurich, it's called Zurich Insurance Company, and it's actually based out of Switzerland, but they're a global company. And so I'm working for the North America branch. So their headquarters in North America, the United States, is in Chicago. But I'm working in one of the field branches out of the Chicago-based section of it. kind of confusing. But so I'm
Right.
working in a small office in Edina, and so when I start, I'll be just working in the office for 4 weeks and doing online training that way. And then after that, I'll be moving to Chicago for 6 weeks to do training there. And then that's when they'll probably teach me like the technicalities of like the actual duties of how to be an underwriter, like analyzing insurance claims and deciding how much the company can, support or cover somebody for their whatever happens to them. And so yeah, I mean, right now I'm just a trainee, but hopefully I'm sure, like they say, in about a year to 6 months, I'll be able to be promoted. So hopefully I will, and hope I can learn it all. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So the outcome was good with getting a job, but I'm wondering if there was any fallbacks that you encountered while job searching?
Yes.
Yes.
Certainly there was. There was this, okay, so actually, this job was one of the first ones that I ever interviewed, or any real job that I interviewed for, and I took it because it sounded like such a good opportunity, but I did have a job that I interviewed for in the fall semester of my senior year, so, and I told them that I couldn't be available until spring, and they were like, oh yeah, that's fine, which like sounded a little weird, like they wanted me to start while I was in college, and I was like, that's not really possible, but I was like, I'll just go and try it out. Well, it turns out that it was kind of just like this sketchy company where they like the way they worded the job description on the internet was completely different than what I would actually be doing. And so it was like, work in a marketing setting in an office, like something that I could actually see myself doing. But then when they sat me down, they're like, oh, we want to tell you, a little bit about what we do. And they were like, actually, you'll be door-to-door a salesman for CenturyLink. And I was like, that's not what I want to do. And I was like, maybe if I was, and then they're like, oh, but you have such an opportunity to, build your own office, to expand your business. And I'm like, but see, like, if that's not my goal, though, like, that's not what I want. And so they were really trying to sell me on something that I didn't even want. And if they would have been honest in their job description, I wouldn't have been there wasting any of our time. Right. So I was a little bit bitter about that. And they offered me a second interview, which I'm sure I would have gotten the job because they were really interested in me, but I had to decline. And I did tell them, like, I actually wasn't impressed with your guys' credibility and your honesty. And I think they probably get that a lot because after looking at Glassdoor, that was something that a lot of people had commented about their company. So that was kind of disheartening because I'm like, I just feel like I was taken advantage of at such a young age. But you got to know that that's not how every company is, and it's just kind of you get some of those bad apples. But so that was definitely kind of like a bad experience. But I mean, the good experiences outweighs the bad ones. So.
For sure. Good for you for recognizing within yourself that that's not what you want, and moving forward. That was a bad interviewing experience, I guess, but will you tell me what the interview experience was like for your current job?
Yeah, it was really good. I went into the building, and the building was already impressive because it's on Centennial Lakes, which is this place in Edina, which is like really nice, and these really nice office buildings. And so I went up to the second floor, found Zurich right away, came in, and it was a really nice floor. Everything looked pretty, which I mean, it's kind of superficial, but it impressed me. And then the manager came out and introduced himself, and he offered me some water, and we sat down, and he basically just went through a list of questions, but then after a while he kind of started ignoring it and just kind of talking to me like a regular conversation. And at first I was nervous, but then I just felt this sort of calm, this is going well, I can tell we're hitting it off pretty well, he likes me. And then at the end he was like, well, I'm interviewing someone else today, but you're my first pick. And he's like, I'm gonna recommend you to HR or whatever. And I was like, okay, this is going really well. Yeah. So it was a really good experience. Me and him just connected, and I made sure to ask him what's your leadership style like, what's the culture here, because those are my two main important things that I'm looking for in a company, and both of them matched up really well with what I was looking for. And when I left, I had a good feeling about it, and they called me back 2 days later and offered me the job.
Good.
So yeah.
Well, that sounds like a great interviewing experience. It just felt right.
Yes, it did.
Good. Well, that was the last question I have for you. Thank you for answering. Congrats, and good luck as you move forward with your position.
Thanks.
And we have our observer today, which was Andrea.